Good day, everybody. I'm Shmee, and have any of you all played Fruit Ninja? If you're enjoying the content, please hit that like button and feel free to subscribe if you'd like to see more. Today, I'm back to show you all how to create a Skyfall Paladin. It turns healing hands into a giant flaming space laser, and if you know how to work it, the damage is amazing. The build seems far more complicated than it really is because in true Paladin fashion, you have to scale your offense by focusing on defense. What's really crazy about this build is that the beam that damages enemies also heals you. You can just stand there enjoying your own little sunbeam and get spam healed back to full health while everything dies around you. It is extraordinarily tanky. I could go on, but I think I'm just going to let you see for yourself. Yeah. The key to understanding the beam is knowing how exactly it deals damage. Healing Hands is normally just a healing spell, but with the Searing Light specialization, it's also a damaging spell with 200% added damage effectiveness. As you develop further and get Unbroken Prayer, it now becomes channeled, always casting 4 times per second or 800% added spell damage effectiveness per second. Once you add in the Skyfall specialization, then you also get a Fire Damage Over Time Sky Beam with an additional 400% damage effectiveness per second. Crit is no good for you since the damage over time part can't crit. Damage over time is no good because the forecasts per second are not damage over time. Increases or reductions to cast speed mean absolutely nothing. But it's all spell damage, it's all fire damage, and that means it's also all elemental damage, and oh boy does it have a nifty added damage multiplier. Once we add in Bane of Evil, every 5% increased healing effectiveness that we can find becomes an additional 1 spell damage for our Sunbeam. This shield right here, that's 27 added spell damage. All you have to do to gear up this build is to get spell, fire, and elemental damage where you would normally, and then stack as much increased healing effectiveness as possible. Since we're stacking healing effectiveness, we can also pump Judgment's Consecrated Ground and use that as a second source of damage. Sigils of Hope and Holy Aura also provide some really nice buffs, and you also get the Smite traversal skill. Honestly, Smite's nice because you can turn it into something that gives you a temporary mana regen boost, but Lunge is pretty much the same. In fact, I'm going to be trying out Volatile Reversal in a few levels as well. If you want to play this build, then you'll have to make a Sentinel, and my apologies already because leveling a Sentinel is not fun. Once you get your Paladin Mastery class and you unlock Healing Hands, everything is going to change. But I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. The grind up to level 20 or so is rough. You'll want to specialize Healing Hands and Holy Aura as soon as you unlock them. The rest of your specializations are going to feel like dead weight until you get into the end game. You don't get Judgment until around level 50, and all of your other skills are either passive or they don't really do anything without endgame gear. You generally won't even use Sigils of Hope until you're in the Monolith because you don't have enough mana. Really, this entire build is centered around Healing Hands and its new Ion Cannon spec. It is all about the Fruit Ninja space lasers. When you specialize Healing Hands, take Searing Light first, then go over and develop Unbroken Prayer. Do not take Skyfall until you have more than enough mana regeneration. You don't need all the damage right away. Your gear will not be good enough for Bane of Evil just yet, so develop Cleric's Wrath, Virtue of Patience, and then Blessed Perish. Then take Bane of Evil and Skyfall. When you start using Healing Hands as a damaging spell, the struggle will become a struggle for mana and mana regeneration. Your damage will be great, but your sustain is not going to be. Getting the channeling and adding the damage over time beam will each make this much worse. As you level up though, you can through gear reduce the cost, and you'll naturally increase your mana pool and you're just going to worry about mana less and less. The deeper you get into the endgame, the less of an issue it inherently becomes. Leveling your passive tree does have one trick to it. When you initially level your base Sentinel tree, put 4 points into Time and Faith instead of Relentless. This allows you to use Smite as a mana generator between Sky Beams, which will alleviate your mana problems. At some point, you'll realize that you just don't really need Smite anymore, and at that point you can unspec Time and Faith and respec Smite into a traversal skill. At endgame, this right here is what I would call the minimum for your passive tree, and there's going to be a link to this in the description. You're going to want to take these 20 points in the base Sentinel tree, and then fill out your Paladin tree like this. As you develop the Paladin tree, prioritize and focus on unlocking passives that grant spell damage while holding a shield. Then fill in things like increased healing effectiveness, fire damage, defense, and fire penetration around those spell damage passives. This right here is my level 82 passive tree. I've maxed out most of the Paladin talents that I want for now, and so I've shifted over to Void Knight to get a little bit of defense. For your skill specializations, you're going to have a lot of options, so I'm going to go ahead and also put links for my current level 82 version of the build as well as my level 100 plan. But to be completely honest, as soon as you have your ion cannon up and running and you understand how to increase its damage the most effectively, that's all you're going to care about. Just copy the spec and go do it. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, take care, everybody.